All right, we'd like to welcome you to the operational period briefing for August 15th. I believe it's the 214th day of this. And you've got a new plans chief, Vernon Ely, me. And yesterday I sat down with the team to get a grasp of what's going on, and we reevaluated, and they told me what the priorities are, so I'd like to go through those today. The number one of us all the time is firefighter safety and getting the firefighter supplies they need. The recognition of assistance. There have been a lot of folks out there that have provided assistance to the Texas Forest Service and the firefighters in general. So if you have anybody that needs that recognition, if you would send the contact information and what they did, all that stuff, to the public affairs officer in here or public information officer, they will make sure something happens for those folks. We need to be cognizant of the image of the Forest Service and firefighters in general. You know what? You work 12 hours a day and that's really good, but what you do in your off time also reflects on everybody that's here and the image of the Texas A&M Forest Service, the U.S. Forest Service, Fish and Wildlife, all of the wildfire agencies, all of the local structure folks that are here. Quality of work remaining high. You know what? This was the finance chief that brought this up, and when they say that your work is remaining high, that's really a compliment. So you need to take that as such and keep it up there so we can keep it there. Resource availability. With everything that's going on out west, it's tough to get resources. So we need to be really cognizant of what you're doing, the work you're doing, and how we're going to right size this organization when the moisture comes or goes, if it decides what it's going to do here later on. Accountability. We are all accountable to each other as firefighters, to the government as taxpayers, and just to us as people. So keep that there and let's do good. Filling requests. We're still getting really good fills on our requests, so that's kind of good. That's thanks to you folks out there. Relationships internally and externally. That is one of the key things that I think we need to build when we go out and work with the local fire departments, the volunteer fire departments, anybody we touch with. We need to build that relationship or enhance the one that's already built there. And that's up to you as a person. So you need to make sure you can do that. And then the last one, need to be cognizant of the cumulative fatigue. Like I said, it's like day 14, I think. And that means everybody, especially you TFS folks, have been getting beat like rented mules. And that sounds kind of trite, but after 215 days of 12, 14-hour shifts, you make bad decisions sometimes. That's one of the things cumulative fatigue does, is makes bad decisions. It makes it easier to get injured, and everybody needs to go home safe. Okay, so with that, we've got the objectives up there: provide for the safety of the wildland firefighters, or for the firefighters, responders, and general public. Protect life and property by pre-positioning resources and utilizing them. Assure that strategy and tactics, current and predicted weather. Okay. Establish unified command with the local, state, and private federal cooperators whenever possible, and conduct all operations in a cost-effective manner that, while promoting mutual respect in an atmosphere free of discrimination or harassing remarks and behavior. Okay, we need to make sure we do that. All right, so now that I've got my feet on the ground, understand what's going on, I'll turn this over to weather. Steve.
Good morning, Incident Meteorologist Steve Fano. Lots to talk about again today. We did have some storms this morning that brewed up in the Panhandle, as well as up in Oklahoma, and those are still ongoing, and we expect that activity to diminish through the day, but probably pick back up again in some areas this afternoon. This is the precipitation map ending at 6 a.m., and you can see most of the precipitation we had yesterday was concentrated up in the north, Panhandle. Actually, the Panhandle had some severe storms yesterday, and we did have one fire yesterday, and we happened to have a thunderstorm that probably produced close to 3 inches of rain in about 2 hours up there just to the west of Wichita Falls. So that's where most of the precipitation fell yesterday, like I said, up in the north. There's your lightning ending this morning at 6 a.m. Again, everything concentrated up north. We did have a few storms down here in the Trans-Pecos as well. This is ending as of yesterday. This doesn't update until the afternoon, but you can see pretty much that much of the state has had some pretty decent rainfall over the last week. There are still some holes in here. This one was probably filled in yesterday from some of the storms, but like I said, we do still have some holes out there, so there are still some dry pockets across the state. So our objectives and our highlights for today as far as the weather goes is it's going to stay hot. Waco yesterday went to 99 degrees, which is a little higher than forecast, and several other areas in South Texas were in the upper 90s to even triple digits. So that trend is going to continue today. Another thing that's going to continue today is it's going to be breezy. South winds, pretty much 10 to 15 miles per hour sustained, but we are going to see some wind gusts up to 25. We've been seeing them for the last couple of days, and that's going to continue. The thunderstorm chances again today up in the north primarily. We may see some stuff also on the Gulf Coast. And then we'll kind of continue some off and on rain and thunderstorm chances basically in the north, and it's going to be kind of an overnight morning thing for the next couple of days, but overall most of the state's going to remain dry through the weekend. So there's your high temperature forecast for today. Pretty much 90s across the board with upper 90s to lower hundreds pretty much from the hill country southward to the Gulf Coast. Relative humidity starting to trend downward, and basically west of 35 you're going to see 35% relative humidities or less, and east of 35 generally above 40%, but like I said, those trends are going to be coming down over the next couple of days. There's your winds generally from the south, although up in the Panhandle there's actually a little weak, you could call it a cold front. It actually is causing some north winds up there. They'll probably shift back around to the south throughout the day. So there's your precipitation chances for today. Again, concentrated pretty much up in the Panhandle and down in South Texas. No severe storms are expected today, but any one of these thunderstorms that develop, brief heavy rain, gusty erratic winds, lightning, all hazards. And there's the pattern tomorrow morning and Friday morning. Basically, ridge of high pressure centered just to our west. And what that'll mean is I do that every day. Northwest flow, and so storms developing up in the high plains will kind of move southward and die during the day. And that's kind of the trend for the next 2 mornings. And then the only other thing I want to talk about is some changes are starting to show up in the models as we head into next week. It does look like we get a more substantial cold front move into the area and brings precipitation chances. But the good news is, well, I don't know if it's good news or bad news, the rain is not going to linger. It's not going to be this soggy, wet pattern. It'll probably be a fairly progressive system, and it'll get out of here by midweek next week. So probably bring some more rain, and then it'll kick out. But one thing it will bring is some increased wind speeds with a wind direction change as it passes. So that's all I have for the weather. I hope everybody has a great day. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Rich Gray in operations. Kind of go over the plan for today. Again, fairly static like we've seen out there in the field. We only have a few crew swaps today, so pretty low activity going on there. Also for today, you heard the weather getting hotter and drier. Have some wind speeds for today, so pay attention to that. We probably will see some increase in IA. Going back to yesterday's activity, pretty good case in point, Lazy J Fire 2 up in Wichita Falls, Wichita County, 174 acres. They did go 100% contained on it yesterday and had some assistance from those T cells. So what that means is, as we're in this transition and fuels are greening up, we need to pay attention to that delayed greening, and we also need to pay attention to those other hazards that are going to be associated with our responses, particularly complacency, because we've had about 4 or 5 days of no response. So out there today, like I said, just maintain vigilance, maintain readiness for IA, and expect that IA potential to increase the next 2-3 days. So thank you, and Air Ops will be up to cover our aviation section.
Thanks, Rich. Yep. No change in aircraft today from yesterday. We still have our 2 AirTac platforms, one in Abilene, one in Fredericksburg. We have our 6 seats, 2 in Fredericksburg, 2 in Abilene, and 2 in Giddings. We have our Type 3 helicopter sitting here in McGregor, and another one sitting up in Mineral Wells. We have our Type 2 helicopter sitting in Smithville, and our Type 1 helicopter is over in Cisco. We did have an accident that occurred in Northwest Washington on the Horns Fire. It was a Fireboss, which is basically a seat with floats with floats on the wheels. The pilot did walk away, so my message to Texas is continue to stay engaged, you guys. All right.
Good morning, John McGee, Safety. Safety had a good day yesterday. No accidents, no injuries, serious or minor. So again, commendations to all out there. Heard the weather. Temperatures, heat indices are creeping up again. So I encourage you all, keep an eye on each other. Be vigilant for those symptoms of heat-related injuries. The fire yesterday kind of demonstrated a lot of what we've been telling everyone about complacency, maintain your readiness. The area where the fire occurred had 3 to 4 inches of rain, and they still had a 174-acre fire, okay? So again, be ready. You could be on a fire no matter what the weather conditions. Some of the safety issues they faced out there were ones that we talk about in the in-briefing. You get safety messages on it all the time. Power lines, pipelines, plastic pipe on the ground. They even had to pull out because the roads were so muddy, okay? So again, keep an eye out for that. There's not a formal safety message in the IAP today. What I put in there was a memo from the NWCG about cumulative fatigue, okay? I encourage everybody, especially you folks out in the field, take a couple minutes to read it. It's only 1 page, won't take much of your time, and it's a very well-written letter about cumulative fatigue, the consequences of it, what it does to you, and what you can do to help mitigate it. So, again, keep an eye on each other. We'll all be back again tomorrow.
Well, good morning. Les Rogers, IC for the team. Everybody keeps talking about sitting around for 3 or 4 days and cumulative fatigue and those kind of things. Well, you know, I've noticed that I get tired whenever I sit around and don't have a lot to do. And when we are actively engaged out there, you know, our watching for our brothers and sisters, those kind of things out there go up. We watch out for each other. So as we're sitting around and not doing a lot over the next few days or last 4 or 5 days, watch out for everybody, because we want to make sure, like we said, the complacency, those kind of things that set in when we back up, when we go to the convenience store to get something, go get lunch, those kind of things. So just be on your A game, even though we don't have a lot of fire activity right now, and we'll start to evaluate and see where we're at the next few days. So with that, just have a good, safe day, and thank y'all.
Okay, you can turn your cell phones back on, and the thought for the day is you don't rise to the occasion, you sink to your lowest level of training. Think about it. Have a good day.